Travis Wayne Goodsill, back from my run. Because I was up a little late, I got started on my run late. I have I planned another video. Since the church announced their closure on Monday, I thought I'd show you how the sign in the heaven that I was warning you about ahead of time, something was coming for those days, 16th, 17th, and 18th. And I said, watch out, be careful, get your stellarium.org programs now. And of course, everybody ignored me, saying, what do you know, Travis? We're not listening to you. And you threw stones of thumbs down. Now look. So, the bird to all of you Mormons. I first learned out about the bird on my mission in New York, New York. I was in Massapequa Park, brand new, and Elder Gale and I went out tracting. I was killing him off as he was trunky, but he had a conscience and was feeling guilty, and so he wanted to teach me about how to do missionary work, and so we went tracting. We walked down one particular street, and a guy that looked like the days of the glamour rock days and the druggy days was outside in the front yard and saw us coming, and the bird, man, the bird, and stormed in his house and slammed the door. But since that sign is still a few more days out, I'll just let you know that it's been fulfilled, and this is the fulfillment. And if I get to it, I'll get to it. But while I was running, another idea for a video came to mind that I think is more pressing for the situation we're facing now. So, to go back in time. It's the late 1700s in Germany. A man by the name of Amschel, a German Jew, is unable to own land because the laws of Germany denied Jews the right to own land. And so Amschel became a banker. And because of the abuses in Germany, it became necessary for Amschel to move to England. He became a banker there in England. Amschel had a son, and he named him Nathaniel. Now, our culture, our Western culture, no longer names our children as a patriarchal blessing of the Mormons. Abraham gave patriarchal blessing to Isaac, Isaac to Jacob and Esau, and Jacob to the 12 sons of his through his polygamous wives, because of the shortage of wives, not because of exaltation. And so, if you remember the story, it was actually the father, Laban, who said, there's no way you're getting the daughter of your choice unless you marry my oldest daughter first. You marry her, then I'll give you your desired wife, Rachel. But regardless, the names were given according to their prophetic blessing on life. So Jacob means usurper, and as he held on to the leg of his brother Esau when they were born, Isaac prophesied that he would be a usurper. And so when it came time for the birthright and the blessing to his sons, Rebecca worked with Jacob and said, "Hey, go trade this porridge," which is a mistranslation. It's from the original Egyptian documents as a salad. And I'm not going to go into any more explanation. I've already done that. And so he took the salad to Esau, which means hairy, and traded the birthright for the salad. Then Rebecca had Jacob put on an animal skin to be hairy and go into his blind father. Jacob is supposed to be Esau is supposed to be the blind one. But they messed up the story. Anyway, Jacob goes into his blind father wearing the animal skins and apparently talks exactly like Esau. And the blessing is also passed to Jacob, as Esau finds out about it and goes, "Not only did you steal my birthright, but you stole my blessing." And so in Jewish culture, naming of children is just like a patriarchal blessing for the child's life. And so Nathaniel is the prophet, Nathan specifically, as Nathan was his nom de plume, is the Jewish prophet who was the prophet under King David. And he was the one who condemned King David. And so Amshel, having been abused by the kings of Europe, as Jews had been persecuted, tossed around from country to country, and accused of witchcraft during the Black Plague, simply because during that virus, they were the only culture who washed their hands. Not a coincidence. And yes, it has everything to do with the coronavirus now. Anyway, Nathaniel takes over the father's banking industry, as he had joined this Freemason group of Scottish Rites, where the Scottish Rites had been infiltrated by another group of Jews from Germany, led by Adam Weishaupt, Johann Adam Weishaupt specifically. And Johann's little band of merry men, of enlightened ones, on the 1st of May 1776, decided that they, as those who were of the persecuted Jewish race and culture and religion had had enough. And they weren't going to be like the other Jews who were passive and refused to rebel against the kings and the governments of the lands. And so they went rogue and became the Illuminati. And similar to Nathan Rothschild, they caused destruction by destroying the kingdoms. Now the kings and queens of Europe all believed that they were the literal descendants of Jesus Christ through Sophia, his daughter, who was taken into Europe after the murder of her father and the apostles. And so, just like the Egyptian story, yes, wisdom, and thus came Jewish mysticism with wisdom. And a secret coding of the Bible with all the different techniques in Jewish mysticism. And the wife of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, fled with Sophia into the wilderness. Revelation chapter 12. And so these kings and queens of Europe believed they were the elite chosen ones, called of God as the children of God. And so here you have Jewish rogue persons fed up with the abuses of these chosen ones. And so they take it upon themselves, as Nathan did to King David, and condemn the kings of Europe by destroying the kings and raising up a new kingdom with a central bank, funded and owned and operated by the Rothschilds. And so America, shortly thereafter the founding of the Illuminati, declared independence from the King George, and believed that they were going to establish the New Jerusalem, specifically those of the Yorkites, with the Knights Templar at the highest rank in their order. The Knights Templar were, of course, the Christian group who were the ones who held on to the Holy Grail, which is the blood lineage of Sophia, so that the future Messiah would be born, protected, raised up in America to establish the restored kingdom of New Jerusalem and Zion here in America, in southern Illinois specifically. And so the Illuminati joined with the Rothschild, learned of this insurrection, and again this blasphemy, as they plotted to also take over America. And so they infiltrated the Scottish Rites in America and made several attempts. The first was in 1800. The second was in 1812. Yes, the War of 1812, funded by Nathan Rothschild, because the United States Congress canceled the central bank. And so Nathan retaliated, causing England to go to war. And despite what our imperious leader says, it was not Canada who burned down the White House, which, as you might recognize or know about, is an inverted pentagram pointing at the White House, with a Scottish Rites Lodge between the horns. This is the symbol of the Illuminati, Lucifer, son of the morning, the enlightened one. And this was carried over into the Scottish Rites Lodge as the opposition between the two brothers, as Scottish Rites called themselves brothers. And and so, yes, this is where Joseph Smith Sr. comes in. He learned about Jewish mysticism with the New Israelites, which is a Congregationalist branch off, and specifically named his children specifically for symbolic meaning. And then they move eventually to Palmyra, where he becomes a Mason, though he may have become a Mason in Vermont, because he names his son born in 1800 Hiram, spelled as Hiram Abiff, but it's also a Jewish name as well. But if you don't know about Hiram Abiff of the Freemasons, he's murdered, and he's a symbol of Osiris, Jesus. And his murder is during the times of King Solomon. Thus they called their lodges temples before the anti-Mason movement in 1826, which the Smith Sr. was instrumental in causing, as they had to secure the rescue and removal from America for his safety, William Morgan, out of the United States, because William Morgan had found out about this Illuminati plot of infiltrating the Scottish Rites Lodges, who were then going to rise in power in the government and take over the presidency to establish a king on the throne of America once again, doing away with this nonsense of a constitutional republic, which they never practiced anyway, because with Thomas Jefferson, we began practicing communism. So we never got a chance to try this constitutional republican experiment. Nevertheless, the Smiths after helping William Morgan flee the country, then began to write where William Morgan left off. Smith Sr. was going to take over the responsibility of warning the United States now, with the publication of what became known as the Book of Mormon. And so it's about two brothers who come from Jerusalem into the promised land of America to be a record for the Jews as well as the Gentiles, who all believe in a Messiah to establish the New Jerusalem in America. The whole Christian concept of a second coming of Jesus was wrong, and everybody knew it. At least those in the know. And so According to Jewish symbolism and signs in the heaven, Smith Sr. Set things in motion. It's not a coincidence that Elijah came to the Kirtland Temple during Passover. And it's those events that tied to Jewish holy days that they were trying to let the Jews know, hey guys, this is it. Or so they thought. And Smith Sr. put his son in charge at first to see if his son can handle the job, and he blew it, as he handed over the 116 pages to a wicked man who destroyed them because he was a part of the anti-Masons during the William Morgan thing. And not understanding that the Smiths were involved in causing it to protect America from the threat of the Illuminati within the Scottish Rites. And thus the church was established, and Joseph wanted to establish a temple and used the religion as the cover, as Sidney Rigdon wanted a religion to preach to a larger audience than his Kirtland church. And so the religion was based after his Campbellite Baptist Rigdonite views, and rather than the Congregationalist views of the Smiths. But Joseph then in 1840 realized that he was not to be this Messiah to build and restore the kingdom of David, the New Jerusalem in America, as he gave a talk in July 19th of that year, saying that among his congregants were those who wanted him dead, those who he accused of being Judas. And so, yeah, by 1840, Joseph Smith Jr. knew he was not going to fulfill the prophecies of the last days Jewish Messiah. And so he then started changing to want to prepare for the time when this Jewish Messiah, who is not really Jewish, but is from the house of Ephraim according to Ezekiel, which again Joseph said he was from Ephraim, and the Gentiles were mostly from Ephraim. Not a coincidence, as we Gentiles originate from the kings and queens of Europe. And his intention was to build in southern Illinois the New Jerusalem and the Zion as mountains of the Lord, pyramid cities, all in that 1840 talk. And he said, we must build them before the signs in the heavens, before the coming of this last days prophesied Moses, Messiah, Horus, an Egyptian, man-child of John's Revelation, or the one mighty and strong, as Joseph called him in section 85 of the Doctrine and Covenants, verse 7. Joseph Smith also calls him Moses. A man like Moses shall lead the church members back to Missouri, as Joseph thought his plans to build Zion in southern Illinois were ruined, And so he changed and turned them into Missouri and Independence with Adamon Diamond, which was supposed to be the priesthood meeting, which never happened upon Joseph's death. And so it's now the prophesied condition for the future Mormon who is to restore the kingdom of David. However, the brother of the Mormons, of Joseph Smith, not the literal brother, the fraternity brother, fulfilled Joseph's prophecy of 1840 and had him murdered in Carthage jail. Shot in the back, very sad. Independence Day. Julius, being a Jew as well. And so, here we are today. The city of Zion and New Jerusalem failed to be built. The enemy kept it suppressed. The Mormon organization of Joseph Smith usurped, Jacobed, and the leaders of the organization had brainwashed the membership to the point where the signs in the heavens came and no city of Zion, no city of Jerusalem, as the final plague, just like the Black Plague of Europe, just like the plague during Moses, the final plague when Pharaoh said, fine, leave, take your people and go, have occurred. All because of those who refuse to wash their hands. By the way, Donald means world ruler, and his son-in-law, who married his favorite daughter, is likewise a Jew, and is therefore fulfilling Jewish prophecy as he believes, and believes himself to be this millennial Moses. I am the chosen one, according to Chinese evangelicals. As another South Korean evangelical movement caused the spreading of the coronavirus, using Revelation as their foundation for Scripture. So there you have it, the plot to destroy the world, and why white Aryans chant, Jews will not replace us. It's not the Jewish people who are to blame. It's these rogue Jews who took it upon themselves to be Gabriel, the strength of God, to be Daniel, the judge of God, to be the destroyers of mankind, who had oppressed the Jews, and they took it upon themselves to say enough is enough. We will show these Christians that their Jesus is a fraud, as it's supposed to be our version of a Messiah instead. And so they're not wrong about the falsehood of the Christian Jesus. The book of Joshua, book of Jesus, is specifically written and placed in order as a type and shadow of the last days Jesus, who takes the house of Israel into the promised land. The events in the book of Jesus, Joshua, are all fiction. None of it happened. There is historical basis, like Jericho. It had been destroyed several times, according to the archaeological record. they would just build another city on top of it. And then that one got destroyed, and then that one got destroyed. But the timing does not correspond to the dates of tradition nor of the context of the book of Joshua. The other cities that were supposedly destroyed at the same time as Jericho never occurred as they are written about in Joshua. So the book of Joshua is an apocalyptic literature rather than an historical book. Oh, apocalyptic literature, like Revelation. Yes, like Revelation. And they just used the character of Joshua from the Torah, who was the one who went as a spy to the promised land to check it out, and he was the one who said, yeah, we can do it, the strength of the Lord is with us. Whereas the others said, oh, we can't do it, they're giants, they're powerful, we'll never win, we're all gonna die. And so that's why Joshua was chosen as the leader to take the house of Israel into the promised land. And so Moses became the father rather than the son to restore the kingdom, which was the whole thrust of the Moses story, was that Moses was the son to restore the kingdom of David. 18th dynasty, Tawut, David, Dawut, and Moses, the David Moseses. And that's the kingdom that Joseph Smith was trying to restore, was the Egyptian 18th dynasty, known to the Knights Templar. Alrighty, so it's the end of the world, and we don't have the cities built. We don't have a place of refuge, as the world is in chaos, as the world is at war, as the world is dying of the plague, as America was conquered by the kingmen of the Republican Party.